trust me, he will be featured in the campaign commercials.
But they're going to feature people. They boogeyman everybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to boogeyman him. He does it to himself.
But they'll do it regardless. Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, but
they make anybody into boogeyman.
It has.
I think it was
just have more weight when it's real.
If Mandani is the face of the Democrats on the East Coast and Katie Porter is the face on the West Coast, I don't know if that's great politically for them.
It's official. The socialists have taken over the Democratic Party, and Mandani's win in New York just made it undeniable. Even the party's top leaders are now warming up to his hard left agenda. And that spells trouble for the DNC. That's where Bill Maher steps in, the reluctant voice of reason, warning Democrats how they lost their footing and how they might save what's left. Let's break it down.
This is Mandani, if you've been not following the news. He won the Democratic primary in New York, so he is certainly likely to be the next mayor. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of opposition because we've never had someone this radical. Some of the things he says, prisons were obsolete. What purpose do they serve? I could think of a couple. The NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. I think most people think cops are protecting their public safety, even though there's issues and problems with the police department. Do you like capitalism? No. We've never had a guy quite like this. You know, he quotes Marxist, each according to their need. I mean, that's straight up communism. Whether you call it the abolition of private property, you call it housing guarantees, it's preferable to what is going on right now.
Maher saw this long before anyone else. Months before the election, he was already warning about Mandani, and that warning is aging like fine wine. He spotted the red flags early, the same way he always does. Not the first time he was right either. Remember when he told the DNC not to run Kamala Harris? They ignored him, and it became one of the most embarrassing defeats in modern history. Maher isn't psychic, he just knows a political disaster when he sees one. And if his streak continues, Mandani's rise might be the opening chapter of the DNC's next collapse.
I mean, just the phrase abolition of private property, not something we usually hear in America.
There's always a villain. There's always people. They always try to create a villain. Is my point. They always try to create some boogeyman or boogie.
No.
If it wasn't this one,
quotes.
It was going to be somebody else.
I'm not creating
right?
anything.
I'm not defending the policies. There are plenty of things that I disagree with there, and that I don't come down on.
You're going to have to answer everything like this. They're going to ask every single Democratic politician.
But the point being, we see this every cycle. I've now been doing this long enough to know that every single cycle, there's some contrived villain or boogeyman.
This guy completely missed Maher's point, and you could see it all over Maher's face. That mix of disbelief and irritation. No one is trying to turn Mandani into a villain. He doesn't need help looking extreme. His own policies do that on their own. Everything Maher warned about came straight from Mandani's playbook. When a politician openly challenges the core of American capitalism, people are going to notice. Maher isn't attacking him, he's holding up a mirror. If Mandani looks like the problem, that's the reflection talking.
If it wasn't this
one, he's not contrived. He's going to be the mayor of New York.
The thing that I find the most appalling, which is that he defends the expression globalize the Intifada.
Yes.
Everything that the crazy far right alleged about Barack Obama, wasn't born in America, right. Islamist, socialist, right. Anti-Semite, hates America. It's all true about this guy.
Right.
Okay? It is all true about this guy. And the fact that this man is on the verge of becoming the mayor of the second largest Jewish city in the world is very frightening. And I'm actually really disappointed that more Democrats have either, are not coming out and condemning him and saying we're not going to endorse this guy because he is beyond the...
Maher called it before the votes were even counted. He knew Mandani would win, and he was right. The signs were everywhere. Glowing media coverage, progressive momentum, and the party's drift into hard left territory. But Maher didn't just predict the win. He warned that it could be dangerous for the Democrats' future. Capitalism isn't perfect, but socialism isn't the fairy tale the left pretends it is. It drains innovation, kills jobs, and hands more power to government. Maher understands this shift isn't progress. It's unraveling what made America thrive. And if the DNC doesn't wake up, they won't have much left to save.
Republicans are not democracy is just not number one on their list. It just isn't. It isn't. It's behind Christianity and a few other things. And the Democrats, I mean, I read these 74% are for democratic socialism. Only 16% favor capitalism. Is this going to be a country that I don't recognize in 5 to 10 years if we don't have these two pillars? If we don't, I mean, where are the Democrats going with this?
And that explains how Mandani, with his Marxist quotes and unapologetic socialist agenda, rose to the top of the DNC. The Democrats aren't flirting with socialism anymore. They're moving in. What used to be a balance between moderates and progressives is now dominated by activists who see capitalism as the villain. This isn't about reform. It's about tearing the system down. The old guard pretends everything's fine, but reality is getting harder to ignore. Mandani isn't the end of the storm. He's the warning shot.
Is this going to be a country that I don't recognize in 5 to 10 years if we don't have these two pillars? If we don't, I mean, where are the Democrats going with this? If Mandani is the face of the Democrats on the East Coast and Katie Porter is the face on the West Coast, I don't know if that's great politically for that.
None of this is good for the party or for America. With Mandani rising in the East and Katie Porter gaining power in the West, the Democrats are steering straight into chaos. America needs two strong parties to stay balanced, not one driven by ideology over reason. The DNC can still recover, but only if it stops chasing radical slogans and remembers the principles it once stood for. If this spiral continues, it won't just weaken the Democrats. It could shake the entire political system.
New York is New York. It's definitely it's the media capital, the financial capital. It is a bellwether like no other city is in this country. So don't tell me that who the mayor of New York is doesn't matter.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. Do you think, let's say, on the seize the means of production, do you think that the mayor, that one person, if he is a democratic socialist, do you think that he would have the power and influence to be able to, usher in socialism?
He definitely has the power and influence to elect J.D. Vance or whoever is the Republican candidate next time.
Maher believes Mandani's victory practically guarantees a GOP win in the next national election, and he might be right. Middle America isn't buying the socialist experiment. These are people who still believe in capitalism because they've seen what happens when governments try to replace it with control and redistribution. Socialism sounds noble on paper but collapses in reality. If the DNC keeps drifting left, they won't be fighting the GOP. They'll be handing them the election. Maher isn't fear-mongering. He's forecasting.
It is a walking commercial for the Republican Party nationally.
I think the Republicans are going to...
When you let the Democrat socialists, and now they're actually calling themselves socialists, when you let them take over a major American city, this is what you get. The state-run grocery stores, which worked so well in Cuba and the Soviet Union and Venezuela, just bad idea.
Maher once warned that nominating Kamala Harris would hand Trump the presidency, and he was right. No one believed him at the time. Now it looks like history is repeating itself. His new warning is about Mandani. He says Mandani's rise could deliver a Republican landslide in 2028. People are ignoring him again, but Maher knows voters. He knows their limits and their distrust of far-left ideology. Ignoring him once was a mistake. Ignoring him twice might be political suicide.
No, but he will, trust me, he will be featured in the campaign commercials.
But they're going to feature people. They boogeyman everybody.
Yeah, but you don't have to boogeyman him. He does it to himself. So don't tell me that who the mayor of New York is doesn't matter.
Names like Pelosi, Newsom, and AOC didn't become controversial by accident. They earned it. Pelosi became the poster child for ethics questions around her stock trades. Newsom turned California into a cautionary tale with homelessness, high costs, and mass exits. AOC mastered performance politics but rarely backs it with results. These aren't GOP inventions. These politicians handed critics the material themselves. Calling it out isn't demonization. It's accountability. And that's what Maher has been saying all along.
This must be horrible for a guy like you, who you spent your whole life talking about how government tries to do too much, which it does, and spends too much. And here you have Trump, who is the Republican, who is aggrandizing more power than anybody, as we just talked about. And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mandani, right? Okay, who's like a straight-up communist. I mean, he is. He talks about, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
You want him to win?
Yeah.
Even many socialists quietly know their ideals don't work. So they rebrand them with buzzwords like equity and economic fairness. New labels, same failed system. History is clear. Every country that embraced socialism ended up with poverty, control, and collapse. Capitalism isn't perfect, but it's lifted billions and fueled innovation. If the left wants to regain trust, it needs to return to pragmatic capitalism. Maher's warnings aren't sound bites, they're reality checks. From Kamala Harris to Mandani, his track record speaks for itself. Socialism fails wherever it's tried. Capitalism keeps the world moving. That's the lesson the DNC can't ignore.